Alright, what's going on, guys? Your boy TG. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we are going to recap the top 10 moments of 2024. So 2024 is coming to a close. 2025 is around the corner. It's going to be the new year soon. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started and showing you guys my top 10 moments of 2024. So, like I just mentioned a few seconds ago, 2024 is coming to a close. New year 2025 is around the corner. Also, make sure to like and subscribe to the TG Hockey channel. Make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms. So on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. It airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time. So make sure you're staying up to date on that. Make sure you tune in to each and every episode I put out. I really would appreciate it. And to those of you that listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, make sure you head over to YouTube and subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. Really will help that. Really would help me a lot if you would do that. And while you're at it, make sure to give the Hockey Talk with TG podcast a 5-star rating. That is the number one podcast for all things hockey. I give a lot of insight, a lot of breakdown, a lot of in-depth analysis on the teams, players, the stats, news, all that good stuff. So make sure that you're tuning into each and every episode I put out. Make sure you're following the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. I really would appreciate it. Yeah. All right, without further ado, let's get into the bigger moment of 2024. So the number one moment, and of course, this one is personal to the hockey world and to every hockey fan and player, especially um, the Gaudreau family. So number one, I put honoring the Gaudreau brothers. So of course, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Gaudreau, at the end of August of 2024, they were killed by a drunk driver while riding their bikes in New Jersey's. So Johnny Gaudreau was 31 at the time he passed. Matthew Gaudreau was 29 at the time that he passed. And this shocked the hockey world. This put the hockey world in shock. And I remember this day very well. I was waking up, going to head to school. I was driving to school. And then when I got to school, I saw on my phone that the Gaudreau brothers had passed because of the idiotic, stupid, dumb, and other names I want to call this dude, the drunk driver. The drunk driver had killed them. And so when I got to school, I saw on my phone that the news broke out. Both Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Gaudreau died from a bike accident, riding their bikes in New Jersey. They were killed by the drunk driver. And this affected the hockey world, and I was in shock. I'm pretty sure you guys were in shock. Everybody was in shock. And so I said before the season had started that when the Blue Jackets and Flames play each other, that will be an emotional game. Why did I say that before the season had started? The reason why I said that is because Johnny Gaudreau played for the Calgary Flames and Columbus Blue Jackets. He spent the majority of his NHL career in Calgary, playing for the Calgary Flames. And then after, 2022, 2023, he signed a 7-year contract deal to the Columbus Blue Jackets and started playing for them. And, of course, now it's 2 seasons. So he spent 9 seasons in Calgary, 2 seasons in Columbus, and both the Blue Jackets and Flames paid tribute to the Gaudreau brothers. So the Blue Jackets honored them in their home opener against the Florida Panthers back on October 15th. They left the left wing spot vacant for Johnny Gaudreau because that was the position that he played. And the fans had chanted Johnny Hockey throughout the game, and it was just emotional, a lot of tears, sadness, and it was just an emotional game to watch. Sean Monahan scored in the game in honor of Johnny Gaudreau. So, of course, I know I forgot to put this bullet point in the presentation, but the Blue Jackets actually made a banner for Johnny Gaudreau, and they raised it up to the rafters. And after Sean Monahan scored that goal in that home opener, he emotionally pointed to that banner and said, "Johnny, that one is for you. That one is for you, Johnny." I think the Blue Jackets ended up losing that game, but that wasn't the point. It was just honoring the Gaudreau brothers, having their legacy continue on, and never being forgotten. The Blue Jackets and Flames, of course, these two teams played each other in Columbus for the first meet. They played in Calgary for the next meet. And in Calgary, the Blue Jackets and Flames paid tribute to the Gaudreau brothers back on December 3rd. The Flames had a 3-0 shutout win, and Johnny Gaudreau was one of the three stars of the game. And in that game against Philly, the Blue Jackets and Flyers honored the Gaudreau brothers ahead of puck drop. So, of course, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, they went to a school in Philadelphia. I'm forgetting the name of the school that they went to in Philadelphia, but they honored them ahead of puck drop, played a tribute on the Jumbotron, and it was just a nice tribute for the Gaudreau brothers. So that's why I had to put this at my number one. Because, like I said, this was a big, big, big moment in the hockey world, in the sports world as well. And it was just tough hearing this news. Like I said, I remember this day exactly well. So I remember when it happened, when I first heard about it, what I was doing that day. And it was just, a sad day to hear, having to wake up to this news and hearing that the Gaudreau brothers had passed. So that's why I put this at number one. Number two, Patrick Kane's return to Chicago and Chris Chelios' night. So as you saw right there, so let me get my laser pointer. So this was a personal moment for me. So as you guys don't know, I am a Chicago Blackhawks fan. Blackhawks are my favorite team. Despite us being bad and terrible and probably almost second and last to the league, I'm a fan of them through the good and bad. But this was my number two moment of 2024. Patrick Kane's return to Chicago and Chris Chelios' night. So Blackhawks were playing the Detroit Red Wings, of course, an original six matchup right there. And the game was on February 25th, 2024. The Chris Chelios retirement night was at the United Center. Of course, Chris Chelios played for the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings. So it would make sense for, his retirement night to be at the United Center when the Blackhawks taking on the Detroit Red Wings. Of course, Chris Chelios is from Illinois. He's a Chicago kid, and he's had a great career playing for the Chicago Blackhawks. He's had a great career playing for the Detroit Red Wings, even playing for Montreal, because I believe at the start of his NHL career, he played for the Montreal Canadiens at some point, and then he went to Chicago, then he went to Detroit, and of course, he won 2 Stanley Cups. I believe he won 2 Stanley Cups with the Red Wings. I don't know if he was part of that 2008 Stanley Cup run. I believe he was. I know Nicholas Lidstrom was still on that team then before he retired. Henrik Zetterberg was on that team. I think Chris Chelios was part of that team, and I believe he was part of that 2002 Stanley Cup run as well. And Patrick Kane, after the Chris Chelios night, Patrick Kane scored the overtime game-winning goal, giving not the Blackhawks, the Red Wings a 3-2 win in overtime. He also had an assist for a 2-point night. So for me, this was a great moment. This was number two moment of 2024. This was a great moment, a game that I will never forget. And I know the Chicago Bulls on January 4th, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, they will have a Derrick Rose retirement night when the Bulls face off against the Knicks, which makes sense right there because just like the Chris Chelios playing for the Blackhawks and Red Wings, Derrick Rose, he played for the Bulls and Knicks in his career. I think he also played for the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies as well. He did go to college at University of Memphis, and then he got drafted to the Chicago Bulls. He's actually from Chicago, by the way. She did not know that. So yeah, so this is just a personal moment for me. I really enjoyed this night, despite the Red Wings winning. And of course, it had to be Patrick Kane scoring the overtime game winning goal, which, as a Blackhawks fan, not too upset about this because I grew up watching Patrick Kane. Um, and of course, I tried to play my game after Kaner, so not too upset that he scored the overtime game winning goal against us. And as you see right here, got my little GIF that I created. And then we got Chris Chelios. Retirement night at the United Center, retiring his number 7 up in the rafters. So it's just a great moment to watch. Number 3, Arizona Coyotes, last game in Arizona. So the Coyotes played their last game in Arizona against the Edmonton Oilers. The game was on April 17, 2024. And the Coyotes won 5-2 against the Oilers. And Lawson Krause had the game-winning goal in that game. And the Coyotes finished their final season in Arizona 36-41-5 with 77 points, and they were 5th in the Central Division, and they moved to Utah, where they're now called Utah Hockey Club. I'm pretty sure you guys already knew the story. So wrapped up their season in Arizona. They moved to Utah. They're playing at the Delta Center, which is home to the NBA's Utah Jazz. And the owner Utah Jazz, so the person that owns the Utah Jazz also owns Utah Hockey Club. So I think Ryan Smith, I think that's his name. So he owns Utah Hockey Club. There are no ties with the Arizona Coyotes. So this is a brand new franchise, brand new team, brand new city, brand new uniforms. So no ties to the Arizona Coyotes. This is a brand new team, fresh off a new start, first season in the NHL for Utah Hockey Club. And hopefully they pick a name soon because I really do hate that name. I don't think it's a good name for a professional hockey team. That's probably more like college hockey or like club hockey, which, speaking of which, I can't believe UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, beat the 10-time NCAA champion Denver Pioneers in that shootout game. 7-6 was the final score. I'll discuss. You guys will hear me discuss that, or you should have heard me discuss that in the Hockey Talk TG podcast. So, yeah. But yeah, so far Utah is having a great season in the NHL. I think there are 4th, 5th in the Central Division as of right now. I'm not 100% sure, but they're having a great season. But obviously, even though I'm not a Coyotes fan at the time when they were a team, I kind of am missing the Arizona Coyotes. I wish they were still in Arizona. But hey, we knew they weren't going to play at Moeller Arena forever. And of course, Moeller Arena, the Arizona Sun Devils college hockey team, they played there as well. We knew the Coyotes weren't going to play there forever, and they couldn't find an arena to stay at in Arizona. So they just say, you know what, we're going to pack our bags and we are going to move to a new state. We're going to move to Utah, which when I first heard of it, I never ever thought of putting an NHL franchise in Utah. I was thinking more like Milwaukee or somewhere else. I never thought Utah would get an NHL team, but so far it's working out well. And, really am enjoying it. Number 4, 2024 Stanley Cup Final. So the 2024 Stanley Cup Final was between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. And the Florida Panthers got it done in the 2024 Stanley Cup Final against the Edmonton Oilers to win their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. So it took 7 games for the Florida Panthers to get it done against the Edmonton Oilers. And Sam Reinhart had the game-winning goal in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. And Connor McDavid took home the Conn Smythe Trophy. He didn't come out on the ice to accept the award in Game 7, according to what I heard in that Face Off Inside the NHL documentary that's on Amazon Prime. If you haven't watched it, I heard that Connor McDavid said he wouldn't have came out there for $1 million. And so that just comes to show he was just like pissed and upset after all the hard work that he's done leading the Oilers all the way to the Stanley Cup Final, getting them to a game 7, because you got to remember they started out in the Stanley Cup final down 3-0. They were down 3-0 heading into game 4 of the Stanley Cup final. And then they won game 4. They won game 5. And then they won game 6. So, like he said, they dragged them back to Alberta for, the game. What was it? Game 5, after they won game 4. And then game 6, they won in Edmonton. Game 7 in Florida. I still stuck with the Florida Panthers taking home the Stanley Cup, but the Edmonton Oilers seemed like an underdog team right there, at being down 3-0 and almost completing the comeback in the Stanley Cup final and winning the Stanley Cup, which would have broken Canada's Stanley Cup drought right there. Because the last Canadian NHL team to win the Stanley Cup was the 1993 Montreal Canadiens, and they got it done against the LA Kings. I believe Wayne Gretzky was on that team at the time because he did play for Los Angeles in his career. He got traded from the Oilers, and then he went to the Kings. So I believe he was on that team at the time. But yeah, that's when a Canadian team has last won the Stanley Cup. As an American, I would love to see a Canadian team break that Stanley Cup drought because Canada is the birthplace of hockey. Hockey started in Canada. Canada's the birthplace of hockey. And I would love to see a Canadian team break that Stanley Cup drought. And I wish it could have been the Oilers because, like I said, they had an underdog team, but I still stuck. But in my mind, I was like, you know what? I think the Florida Panthers are still going to get it done. Never doubt the Florida Panthers, even though they lost game 4, game 5, and game 6. They won game 7. Never doubt them. I knew they were going to get it done in the Stanley Cup final. But like I said, I would have loved to see the Oilers break the Stanley Cup playoff. Break the Canadian Stanley Cup drought, but, couldn't get it done. But hopefully Connor McDavid gets his name on the cup one day before he retires. That's all I can say. All right, number 5, 2024 NHL All-Star Game in Toronto. So that took place on February 3rd at Scotiabank Arena. That is also home to the NBA's Toronto Raptors and the NHL's Toronto Maple Leafs. And the first time since 2012, an All-Star Game took place in Canada. Excuse me, let me drink some of this water. Had to clear my throat there for a second. But the 2024 NHL All-Star Game featured Team McDavid, Team McKinnon, Team Hughes, and Team Matthews. And the fantasy draft took place on February 1st. And it was the first time since 2015 the All-Star captains drafted their players. Because, of course, we were having, the 3-on-3 format. It was Pacific, Metropolitan, Central, and Atlantic. We were having the divisions go at it against each other. Now we have this fantasy draft, little 3-on-3, and yeah. The NHL All-Star Skills Competition happened on February 2nd, and the All-Star Game itself happened on February 3rd. As you see right here, we got Justin Bieber in the All-Star Game jersey, of course. He's from Toronto. He's a Maple Leafs fan, and he attended the All-Star Game. He was actually one of the celebrity captains, by the way. And then to the left of him, you got David Pastrnak of the Boston Bruins. And then you got Tomas Hertl before he, played for the Vegas Golden Knights. He was playing for the Sharks at the time. And in game 1, Team McDavid won 4-3 in the shootout against Team McKinnon. Game 2, Team Matthews won 6-5 in the shootout against Team Hughes. And then game 3 was the finals, sort of in the All-Star Game. And we saw Team Matthews win 7-4 against Team McDavid. So Team Matthews won that All-Star Game. And I really did like Team Matthews. I cheered on for Team Matthews during the All-Star Game. And they had a great jersey setup as well. Great uniforms. I really did like all these All-Star Game jerseys. I felt like they were great. I know some people, when they first released their jerseys, some people didn't like the jerseys or weren't big fans of it, but I thought the uniforms were great. They added some, more style to it, so I thought it was great. And I thought overall this was a great event. In general, I hope they have another All-Star Game in Canada. Maybe we'll try Vancouver. That'll be a great place to have an All-Star game, or Montreal or wherever. Just happy to see the All-Star game come back to Canada because, like I said before, Canada's the birthplace of hockey. So yeah, but in the States, I know they're having an All-Star game in 2026. They're not having one in 2025 because of the Four Nations face-off that'll feature Team USA, Team Canada, Team Sweden, and Team Finland. So they're having one for 2026. That will be at UBS Arena, which is home to the New York Islanders. Which I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought that was just odd to have the All-Star game there. You probably should have it in like Minnesota, or Chicago, or maybe Boston or somewhere like that. But Long Island, New York, I never thought there would be an All-Star game there. But yeah. All right, moving on to number 6. So number 6, 2024 NHL Winter Classic. And it featured the Seattle Kraken taking on the VGK Vegas Golden Knights. So the Winter Classic was held at T-Mobile Park, which is home to the MLB's Seattle Mariners. The Kraken won 3-0. That was the first Winter Classic game that had a shutout. There has been no shutout in a Winter Classic game before until the 2024 NHL Winter Classic between the Kraken and Golden Knights. And Joey Daccord made 35 saves in the win. Ellie Tobin, Will Borgen, and Yanni Gord scored in the win. Ellie Tobin had the game-winning goal in the Winter Classic, and that was the first time that the Kraken and Golden Knights have appeared in the Winter Classic. Because, of course, these two teams were expansion teams. They were new teams. They have never played in the Winter Classic before until the 2024 NHL Winter Classic. And like I mentioned already, first Winter Classic game that we saw a shutout in. So, yeah, really did enjoy, by the way. And number 7, Utah Hockey Club's first game in franchise history. So, of course, that game was on October 8th. And they played my Chicago Blackhawks at the Delta Center. Like I mentioned, that's also where the Utah Jazz play at. And Lauri Markkanen, who's on the Utah Jazz. He's a power forward / center for the Utah Jazz. He used to play for the Chicago Bulls before he played for the Jazz. But he came out for puck drop, and he can really skate. I'm surprised he's not a hockey player because he skated really good when he came out there for puck drop. So I don't know why he became a basketball player. He could have became a hockey player. Because I believe he could have been a great hockey player with the way he was skating during Utah Hockey Club's first game. But Utah won 5-2 in this game. I really wanted the Blackhawks to win, of course, but Utah Hockey Club got it done. So I wasn't all too mad when Utah beat Chicago 5-2. I was a little bit mad, but not all too mad, considering that this was Utah's first game in franchise history. This was a big night for them, and they really wanted to come out strong, and that's what they did. Took it to the Blackhawks 5-2. So it was just an unreal game. I remember Vegas' first game when Vegas first came into the league. That crowd was packed. And the Golden Knights came into the league in 2017, and they played against the Arizona Coyotes then, when the Coyotes were still a team, and when they didn't move to Utah. I remember that game too well. Came to the league in 2017. I'm telling you guys, that barn was packed. And it was loud. It was electrifying. It was just this unreal moment at T-Mobile Arena. And the Golden Knights, they did win that game 5-2. James Neal has scored in that game. Tomas Nosek. I think Cody Eakin had a goal in that game. And I'm forgetting who else scored in that game. But the Golden Knights did end up winning that game. I remember Seattle's first game. They didn't win that game, by the way. They came to the league in 2021, and they faced the Vancouver Canucks for their first game in franchise history. Wait, no. I think they were on the road. When they first started off. For their first game in franchise history, they were on the road, and they played Vegas on the road for their first ever NHL game. And Ryan Donato had scored the first ever goal in Seattle Kraken franchise history before he came to Chicago, played for the Blackhawks. He had scored the first goal in Seattle Kraken franchise history, and that was a road game. But their home game was against Vancouver, and the Canucks won that game. But that barn at Climate Pledge Arena, that was packed as well. It probably wasn't as cool as the one in Vegas. Sorry if you're a Kraken fan. I really did enjoy that game too, but it probably wasn't the one as cool as in Vegas. Um, but it was still a great night nonetheless. And it's basically the same thing here for Utah Hockey Club. I mean, when I watched that game, and I stayed up all night watching that game, because not only was it the first day of the 2024-25 regular season, but the Chicago Blackhawks were also playing. It was Utah Hockey Club's first game in franchise history. So you say, you know what? I ain't going to bed. I'm staying up all night and watch this game. And I did. And that barn was just packed. I didn't expect no fans and nobody in Utah to ever like hockey. I didn't think that would be a hockey city. So I didn't expect the Delta Center to be as loud as it was. I didn't picture that in my mind when I first watched the game, but it was electrifying. It was electrifying. Like, I really enjoyed it, despite the Blackhawks losing. It was just a packed barn. Dylan Gunther scored the goal in Utah, scored Utah's first goal in franchise history, and he's doing good for Utah Hockey Club already. Clayton Keller wearing the C, Logan Cooley wearing one of the A's, alternate captain, I believe. So they're already doing good things in Utah, and they're having a solid, good season as well. I mean, so far, I think Utah Hockey Club is 16, 13, and 6 of the season, but that probably might change as I get through recording this video, because this video is going to come out on New Year's Eve, and they play on December 30th against the Kraken, so I know that's going to change. So, yeah. All right, moving on now. Number 8, Macklin Celebrini NHL debut. So Macklin Celebrini made his NHL debut against the St. Louis Blues on October 10, 2024. The game was at SAP Center, so they were home for that game. And the Blues won 5-4 in overtime. Braden Shen, he had the game-winning goal. They actually outshot San Jose 40-29. But Macklin Celebrini, he had a goal and assist for a 2-point night. He averaged 17 minutes and 35 seconds of time on ice, 22 shifts, and 2 shots on goal. So I thought he had a great debut. And so far, he's having a good NHL season as well. Really do enjoy watching him this season. I still think Matej Michikov is going to take on the call, though, but I enjoy watching Macklin Celebrini this season. Him and Will Smith are going to be a problem for San Jose for years to come. That's going to be a scary duo to watch. I didn't mean to make it look like a bad thing when I said it was going to be a problem. I meant it in a good way. So that's going to be a scary duo to watch. Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith. I mean, they're probably going to bring San Jose a Stanley Cup home in years to come. And I know some of you guys think I'm hallucinating or acting delusional right there, but I believe they're going to bring San Jose a Stanley Cup after this rebuild is over. Number 9, the 2024 NHL Draft. So the 2024 NHL Draft was held at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Normally I wouldn't put this in my top 10, but I think it was a cool draft all in all. I mean, it was in the Sphere, and usually the drafts would be at, like stadiums like nobody ever thought an NHL draft would take place at the Sphere in Las Vegas, but I thought it was like pretty cool. And of course, Macklin Celebrini got drafted first overall in the first round of 2024 NHL draft by the San Jose Sharks. So I thought it was like a pretty cool atmosphere. And then, of course, you got the players right here who probably have or have not got drafted. I think these are, the 2024 draft prospects right here. Or maybe they're not. I really don't know. I really can't see that. But yeah, that's the Sphere. That's what it looks like on the outside right here. If you take a look at this picture where the red cursor is, that's the look for the outside of the Sphere. This is what it looked like on the inside right here and right here. So it was just a cool place to have the draft at. And then number 10, Connor McDavid, 1,000 career points. So Connor McDavid, he had 1,000 career points in the Oilers, 3-2 overtime win over the Nashville Predators. This game was on November 14th. So he had a goal and assist to reach the milestone. And Darnell Nurse scored the overtime game-winning goal in this game when the Oilers swept the season series against the Nashville Predators in this game as well. You should take a look right here. I thought this was pretty cool from the NHL to add Connor McDavid for all the 3 stars of the game, considering the night that he had. All right, other notable moments. Other notable moments for the 2024 best moments. Sidney Crosby scored his 600th career NHL goal on November 23rd in the Pittsburgh Penguins 6-1 loss to Utah Hockey Club. 2024 NHL Stadium Series. I thought that was a good moment. Of course, the Devils won 6-3 against the Flyers on February 17th, and the Rangers had a comeback win over the New York rivals, New York Islanders, 6-5 in overtime on February 18th. And then another one, Buffalo Sabres versus Montreal Canadiens on Veterans Day. Canadiens won 7-5. And then the 2024 NHL Global Series in Finland, Panthers won both matchups, and the Panthers won 6-4 against the Dallas Stars on November 1st. And the Panthers won 4-2 against the Stars on November 2nd. And Alexander Barkov had 5 points in the games on 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points in 2 games. And the Boston Bruins celebrating their 100th anniversary. They came to the league in 1924. And then, of course, the 2025 NHL Winter Classic between the Chicago Blackhawks and St. Louis Blues at Wrigley Field. And then Joe Thornton retirement night as another moment for 2024. So that was just notable moments I added. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for this video. So, of course, as always, leave a comment down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to the TG Hockey channel. And make sure to follow the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms. So on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon Music. Also, make sure to give it a 5-star rating. I really would appreciate that. And, of course, Happy New Year to you guys. And I will see you guys next time.